Welcome back to Softcore History. I'm your host for the week, Dan Regester, and I am joined, as always, by... No, he's not here. Rob Fox has abandoned his boy. He's left his child. So I invited two of the finest men of the realm. Papa G.
Hello, Sir Daniel. I'm here to pledge my sword to you for this podcast.
And another fellow Austin producer, Randy Trembacki.
Hello, me lord.
From Circling Back.
Or should I say your grace? You're dressed up as a king today.
I am. And you guys are my, I wouldn't say peasants.
I would say peasants. I'm wearing a potato burlap sack.
This crown doesn't really fit my head.
You know you can form it a little bit. It's not actual metal. I think you could just... Here, give it to me.
Well, like
Grace.
they say, heavy.
Yes, jewel merchant, shape his crown for the king immediately.
I think he just wants it. I think he's trying to steal it.
It was that easy.
Are you trying to steal the crown? Are you teasing the episode?
No, it's pretty heavy. There's some weight to that.
See, that's much better. You got to make it more oval. It's very circular.
Oh, you cracked it. That's
I didn't
why.
crack it.
You did crack it.
Like the Liberty Bell.
You destroy the crown jewels.
That feel better now?
Not really, but now it's broken. But we'll proceed. Welcome to Softcore History. Ladies and gentlemen, Rob is out of town. He actually went to his children. He's helping his kids out and his wife. He'll be back next week, but got two of my finest friends here to talk about a topic that Game of Thrones is actually based on. The War of Roses. Hear about this? You know about this, guys?
I've heard of it before. It was an old Austin battle where the strippers from the Yellow Rose and the strippers from the Red Rose had a little battle.
They had a strip off.
They had a strip off.
It lasted a long time from what I hear.
That, you know what? Whoever owns the Yellow Rose and the Red Rose should do that. They call it the War of the Roses.
People still track their strip lineage to that original strip off.
Wow.
And the Yellow Rose clearly won.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
House Palazzo entered the mix, but they were long forgotten.
They were probably like the Tudors. They showed up late.
No, we'll talk about this. It's the War of the Roses, and we'll start with the root cause of the War of the Roses, a lot of people say. In England lies with the succession plan after the death of Edward III in 1377. Edward III himself set off the 100 Years' War in 1337, when he made claim for the French throne after the death of Charles IV, who died without any sons or brothers, and his nephew Eddie Three Sticks was the closest male relative left.
Yeah, so that was kind of common during this time period because of the way they were intermarrying and the way that things were passed down between generations. The King of England at a lot of times in the 12th century owned more French land or controlled more French land than the King of France did.
A lot of ties between French and British rule.
And it's the way it
aristocrats.
trickled down like a Plinko game. It was
Or
like,
nobles.
oh, my third son inherits this, but he's now also technically the King of England.
Everyone's
so,
related to.
Yeah.
Everyone's a cousin, brother, sister,
It's true.
mother.
So is this happening during the 100 Years' War?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. It's a war within a war.
There's a war inside a war inside a war.
Well, Eddie
Warception.
Three Sticks' son is kind of a badass. Do you talk about him?
An assembly of French barons decided the crown should go to a native French-born royal and promoted Charles' cousin Philip. Thus began a conflict that would span over the next 5 generations. Edward III's two eldest sons, Edward the Black Prince, who was one of his best commanders in the 100-Year War, he was commanding, but he died of dysentery a year prior to his own father's death. And his second eldest son, Lionel, was poisoned by his in-laws and passed in 1368. So if you want to expand on the Black Prince, go ahead.
I was just going to say he died before his dad, and then you were talking about his dad's death.
He died from the poops.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my thing.
I know.
It's
So
easy.
the Black Prince was a pretty fierce warrior, and he had to go out on the toilet.
He was sick nasty. He was very Daemon Targaryen.
But he died very much like Tyrion Lannister.
Yes.
Tywin.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice
We're
try.
going to have to get those names.
So there are a lot of parallels, obviously. George R.R. Martin talks about the War of Roses being the inspiration for Game of Thrones. He actually said he doesn't write fiction. He takes history, scrubs off the serial numbers like a gun, and then just ramps it up to 11. Those are his own words.
Accurate.
Then it has a little bit of dragons in it.
Well,
A little bit of fantasy.
as you missed last episode that I was here, we talked briefly about a dragon.
We did.
Don't.
But that was Roman times.
Yeah, so go back and
Little
check that
older.
episode.
That was the Punic War episode.
Was.
So his two oldest sons are dead. He himself passes away in 1377. He had three remaining sons: John of Gaunt, Duke of Lancaster; Edmund of Langley, 1st Duke of York; and Thomas of Woodstock, Duke of Gloucester. I don't know. Some of these English towns are just a mouthful.
Gloucester?
Gloucester? They're not important. The two big houses you need to know for this war is the Lancasters and the Yorks.
The Pepsi and the Coke of the time.
The Lannisters and the Starks, essentially. The White Rose was the Yorks. The Red Rose was the Lancasters. Lannisters, same thing.
So that's why it's the War of the Roses.
Based off the flowers from 3 generations earlier.
From the yellow rose and the red rose, you're saying, back to the stripper thing.
Yes.
Do you know how this ends, Giorgio?
I do not.
You know? Okay, I think we need to pick a side.
Without even...
I don't know how this ends, so it's either maybe I should root for the Yorks and he roots for the Lancasters. Or you choose. I'll let you choose since I'm putting this out here.
I'll go Lancaster.
You go Lancaster, I'll go York. All right.
You go York?
I'm going
I think
York boy.
If I were to look at George R.R. Martin's tellings, things get messy. And one person may win for a little. I don't know if they'll win forever.
I'm going with the old Yorks.
Well, war's not that simple, ever. It's not good versus evil.
Is war over?
It's not cut and dry. There's so many twists and turns.
Don't care. I'm rooting for the Yorks.
Okay.
Well, that's fair. So what year are we in right now?
So this is 1377.
Cool.
This is when Edward III dies. Now, he passes up his 3 remaining sons in favor of Edward III's grandson through the Black Prince's own kid, Richard.
So, a little explanation of how this works is the firstborn son then becomes heir to the throne.
Much to the dismay of his uncles.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then his firstborn son becomes next up. I don't know how that works in American politics, but who's ever after the vice president?
There's no comparison to American politics.
Fair enough. Basically, his younger brothers get jumped for his kid,
They're all Kennedys.
even though he's already dead. But he was such a G, people were like, yeah, we're going to go with them instead.
So the Black Prince is the oldest son.
And
Yes.
So he's
he's
the
already
oldest son.
dead.
He has a kid,
So he is the proper heir to the throne. Yes, this kid.
technically. But Richard, the Black Prince's son, was only 10. He's only 10 years old. He was a child.
Everyone has a claim to the throne if you really think about it.
The young king, Richard II, who became known as Richard of Bordeaux, took over in 1377 and let his uncles, John and Thomas, call the shots of his regency council.
So this would be like
This is the Black Prince's son, who's 10, takes over.
So he's like the third and the fourth born of the Eddie Three Sticks. Be like, hey, you guys are I'm just a kid. You guys can.
I know it gets a
handle
little confusing because the names are very similar. It's a lot of Richards, a lot of Edwards, a lot of Edmonds, and that's kind of why people complain in Game of Thrones, but he's literally just ripping off history.
this. Yeah, that's true.
Not of
So-
serious.
So he became king at 10. Like he got power when he was
King
10.
in name only. He really gets crowned. Like when you come of age, I think it's like 16 at this time. Then you fully have power, but at this point, his uncles are calling the shots.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they each kind of have their own subsect house. There's really 5 houses that come of all this, but 2 main players. The Lancasters and the Yorks.
The Yorks are really like the bad team in this story.
I don't think. I
that's
think
all you
the,
really
the
need
Yorks
to know.
are. We'll see. We'll see how history goes because I don't think these Lancasters are no goods. That's what they are.
They're casters.
I mean, if you want to ride with the Lannisters, go ahead.
No, like spellcasters.
Team York.
Lancaster.
Okay.
The longer the name, the better. Who wants to be ruled by a York? Doesn't even sound royal.
I'm just saying.
It sounds peasant like. It sounds like it's giving your outfit.
How dare you? I work hard in my fields.
They handled the ongoing 100 Years' War and the Peasant Revolt in 1381 that came from an unpopular tax used to fund the 100-Year War. The older he got, the more Richard started to squeeze out his uncles, became a true monarch, and shrank the amount of allies around him while putting a target on his back. Meanwhile, in France, most of the territory gained under his grandfather Edward III had been lost, and Richard sought to negotiate a peace treaty with the French king, Charles VI, which would make England a client kingdom of France.
So we went from just an amazing Edward III rule. He goes down as probably one of the greatest kings of all time, except for the plague happens during his rule, and then his lineage gets kind of shot down.
A lot of this is kind of marred with the plague, weather. There's a bunch of crazy shit that happens all throughout this that kind of upsets the apple cart. But yeah, there's a lot of plague.
So how long has the 100 Years' War been going on during this time?
It started in 1337.
Okay,
so about 40 years.
Okay, so we still got 60 years left. I guess they're not making full peace, is what I'm figuring out there.
It's ongoing. It's not constant. It's just like, oh, we're going to take France now. Oh, we're going to go back in England.
But France is up right now. So England was up big during Edward III, taking so much so that like we're going to make a run at all of it.
So like this is the finals, and England was up 2-0, and then like France has tied it up.
More or less, yeah. They've pushed back. English Parliament, which mostly consisted of actual knights fighting the war, rejected the hell out of this treaty. Richard went on and negotiated the deal with Charles VI anyway without their permission, agreeing to marry Charles VI's 6-year-old daughter. Richard then spent the next few years exiling and executing his political opponents in years known as Richard's tyranny. And many historians believe he developed several personality disorder that caused him to become more paranoid.
Okay.
So he's a little bit of a schizophrenic.
So you said that what type of kingdom is he for France then? Like that was the treaty.
He was trying to negotiate a peace deal with Charles VI because he was getting his ass kicked in France, and agreed to marry Charles VI's daughter, who was
that's what it
at
was.
the time 6. And he, at this point, I think so. This is around. He's still a teenager.
Okay.
So he's a teenager with multiple personality disorder, engaged to a 6-year-old, who then starts just offing people.
Yeah, exiling people. History's fun, isn't it? And this is hold on. And this is not part of the Lancasters or the Yorks. This is just Richard, right?
That's just Richard being Richard.
Okay.
This is
Good.
Richard II.
As long as he wasn't a York, that's all I'm saying.
This led to him taking the titles and land of his cousin Henry Bolingbroke when his uncle John of Gaunt died in 1399. So Big Unk that helped kind of with his early years, his early preteen years as king. He dies, and then his cousin, he's like, fuck you, dude. That's my land.
I mean, he's the king.
Henry then, as one does when you get all your titles and lineage and all the things promised to you taken away, he builds up his own little small force in France. And when Richard went on his expedition to Ireland in 1399, Henry himself just invaded England in June of 1399, meeting little to no resistance. His support rapidly grew amongst the disenfranchised nobles who were being persecuted against in Richard's kind of 2-year run of tyranny. They allowed him the throne, and Richard, upon return from Ireland, was like, hey, what happened to my kingdom? And they're like, you got to go to prison, brother.
So he's like, nah, fuck you, cuz I'm taking all your land. All right, I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna take your kingdom.
I'm gonna go to Ireland really quick, and then he comes back and just guys like, should have done that. I'm the king now.
Yep. He's like, you took my land. I'm taking
I'm
the
taking
realm.
your throne. Yeah.
You can have it, but it's coming back like in the package deal.
So
the rest of it.
So was he French then, or he just built up a force in France?
So the English and French at this time,
Are-
they're both.
They're muddied.
Yeah.
Because
They're
they're
kinda
constantly
marred
marrying each
together.
other.
And they're
Gotcha.
constantly
They're all
beefing.
related.
So it's really easy to get some that just want to get together and go kill some other ones.
Bolingbroke becomes Henry IV, and after a few failed attempts known as the Epiphany Rising, which was a group to rescue Richard from imprisonment, The former king starves to death, and the conspirators were executed.
Huh.
So there goes Richard. He just dies like a bitch.
See
in a
ya, Richie
jail
boy.
cell.
At least he didn't
They
die
just
from the
don't feed
poops.
him. They're just like, eh.
No, he did the exact opposite way of his dad, not from the poops.
From the lack of.
He wished he pooped. Richard's supporters in Wales popped off with a rebellion of their own.
Didn't the Soviet Union kill all of them?
What, in Wales?
Wales. I was just listening to that episode
Yeah.
before I came in.
Dude, there were so many whales before the Japanese and Soviets took them out. You could just jump into the water and there was
You
land
land a
on
helicopter.
whale. Yeah. Tudors are kind of the main G's that are going off in Wales. The Welsh. They're Welsh royalty. They control everything in Wales. And they'll come into the story later on. But for now, they're just going to kind of start their own rebellion when they see an opportunity now that Richard's gone.
So England controlled Wales during all this too, and then they're going to rebel against Henry in the future is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So William the Conqueror, it was like in the 1000s or something. He brought all the kingdoms of England together, and then further on, I think closer to, it might have been under, it wasn't Edward III, but I think Edward the First is the one that united all, or he got like Wales and
He united
Scotland.
the kingdom,
And, yeah. He got all the kingdoms.
later known as the United Kingdom.
He was like Aegon, the Conqueror.
No, that's more of William.
Well, okay, William was the Conqueror.
Yeah. Edward the First, I think, was more like a Tywin Lannister.
Gotcha.
Henry IV continued to fight off challenges to the crown until his death of 1413 and was succeeded by his son Henry V. Henry V goes on to invade France in 1415, claiming they were funding the Welsh rebels and that he had a dynastic claim to the French throne as well, because everyone did.
So running it back to basically Edward III, I have the sick name. I'm like part French. I could basically run France too. I'll end this 100-year war. I'm the rightful king. Come at me.
More or less. Henry V does work in France. He fought off a lot of his distant relatives in coups, wiped out a good part of the French nobility, giving legitimacy to the Lancaster monarchy, and in 1420, Henry V and Charles VI signed the Treaty of Troyes, which agreed that Henry would marry his daughter, Catherine, and their heirs would be next in line for the French throne. Also, Catherine has a lot of roots in Scotland. Or not in Wales, I'm sorry, with the Welsh and the Tudors.
Old Katie.
So Henry V, after kind of taking, he was doing some boss shit in France. He dies in 1422, also of dysentery,
The poops.
leaving behind a 1-year-old infant son as their heir.
Okay, so this is even worse than the 10-year-old.
It's much worse. So you can see how it kind of gets the way it does.
Okay.
It's just a lot of people having, child kings, a lot of uncles that feel slighted.
It causes a big morality problem, though, because you want to do what's right, but is what's right supporting this 1-year-old child because that is the true born lineage, or what is right supporting the person you think is going to help the realm the most? It's a moral paradox.
Also,
commoner.
if I'm a commoner, I'm not going to listen to this 1-year-old.
Yeah.
What's he going to tell me to do?
Yeah. I don't think he's going to tell me anything.
I don't think he reigns very much, does he?
His uncle Humphrey sought to become Lord Protector until Henry VI came of age. So no, Henry VI is around a long time.
So this would have
That's why I
been
was just hinting towards the protector of the realm.
this would have been, I assume, Henry V's brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
So his uncle Humphrey. Henry VI.
What was Humphrey's vibe?
Humphrey was kind of chill, actually. But his half-uncle, Cardinal Henry Beaufort, opposed the idea, and there was a bit of a power struggle over regency as Henry VI could not walk, let alone rule.
Well, we knew that it was going to be a long regency because as a 1-year-old,
Yeah,
you got like a good 16 years of king, basically.
he's not getting crowned.
So all the uncles are like, it's not quite king, but it's like king light. It's kids diet king.
Yeah.
His crown is one of those like head shaping helmets.
He went to Burger King and they just like pieced it together. No, Henry VI, he officially gets crowned at like 7 in response to a French thing, but he doesn't really have power till 16.
Right.
So
he makes it there. He makes it to at least 16, we know.
Well,
they're not
no
killing
danger.
an infant. There's no...
Yeah.
They do it in Game of Thrones.
Whoa, spoilers, dude.
I don't say when.
Or who, I know. So, meanwhile, France is bucking. Joan of Arc is just taking dubs against the English, like left and right. She is reversing many of the gains by Henry V. Henry VI is crowned at 7, like I said. His mother remarries Owen Tudor, and she bores 2 of his sons, Edmund and Jasper Tudor. So the Tudors you just got to kind of pay attention to in the background.
They're
around.
They're doing their Tudor thing.
They're kind of just like circling the waters.
They're
staying out of it. Most of the time, they're just in exile and just kind of like looking from beyond. But they're ready to strike.
They're like the 5th man of any good NBA team, or 6th man of any good NBA team.
just in the background.
They're not. They're like a scout. They're just watching things happen. For the most part,
They're not York, so I don't care. I'm for my York boys.
Wise down.
Henry VI grows into his position under the tutelage of William de la Pole, Earl of Suffolk, and marries the niece of the French king, Margaret of Anjou. Margaret. Now this is the baddie.
Is she the baddie?
Well, she makes Joan of Arc look like a little bitch.
Well, she is essentially Cersei.
Okay.
So through a pact negotiated by William, so like the guy that's kind of bringing Henry under his wing, he introduces him to his wife, but things go south with the advisor. William is exiled and executed, and the position is followed by his boy Richard. But then there's a little bit of a power struggle. Margaret gets her guy in, who is Edmund of Beaufort, Earl of Somerset.
And this is pretty much getting him out like the consul to the king?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hand to the king.
Gotcha.
Margaret walks all over Henry VI, and she even has an affair with Edmund that was so public that many just believe their heir, Edward of Westminster, was a bastard from the jump.
Oh, okay. So she's got a little side piece, and she said, "No, I'm going to keep you in the kingdom. I'm going to make you hand, so I can, I'm walking over my husband, and I got my slam piece on the side that's actually ruling."
Yes. So
Nice.
her
Good for you.
little side dick, she places in a position of power to advise her husband.
Gotcha.
And
then,
if the husband needs to go away, she can play.
you know what I was
It's
thinking
a very
about?
cuck. That's the ultimate. You just cucked the King of England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, so they refer to her as the Wolf of France. She is cutthroat
Why don't we exile people anymore?
because they always come back. I think we learned through history, if you exile somebody, especially Napoleon, he only came back stronger.
Exile and banishment sounds so cool. The only time you get like banned is from like a video game or something anymore.
You've been
What's the
watching
point?
The Count of Monte Cristo too much.
I don't know. This is cool. Being banished.
So the
Shadow
English
Realm.
get their ass whooped in France to the point that it officially ends the 100-Year War in 1453. Henry VI does not take this well. Has a complete mental breakdown. He essentially goes AWOL on the realm. Just disappears.
So his dad had just like Henry V got so much land back, was doing work, and then Henry VI just like
Takes over.
Joan of Arc
Granted,
just completely.
He's a baby
all that.
for the most part, and
I
then
guess.
Joan of Arc does her thing. France pushes back, and by the time he takes over, it's bad news. He loses most of what his father gained, and then he just has to sign a treaty. Is very, very mentally unstable. Just thinks this is who George R.R. Martin actually bases the Mad King off of.
Okay.
He goes crazy.
Nuts.
Mm-hmm. He goes AWOL on the realm. Doesn't even bother to name his newborn the heir. A regency council is established to rule, and Richard of York is named Lord Protector in 1454.
Let's go, Richie.
York actually imprisons Somerset, so Margaret's side piece, who everyone thinks is the father of the prince.
Get that side dick out of here.
Yeah, he's like, we need to take care of this. This guy first off, he's dumb. He's not a very good advisor.
He's just hot.
He's just slinging dick to the queen. Yeah. And he probably fathered this bastard prince.
Yeah.
So we need to get rid of this dude so there's at least legitimacy to the prince.
I like
the way his father dies.
I like the way the Yorks are moving so far.
So Richard actually has his best interest initially for Henry the Sixth. He's still like, that's my boy. I know he's a little crazy right now, but we need to like set him straight. He got kind of pussy whipped. This woman's walking all over him. We need to set her straight. We need to take that dude out, her little side piece, and we need to have some stability to the crown.
So what you're saying is getting cucked as a king can drive you into madness
And losing a war. Like
a
the
lot,
war of all wars. So the 100-Year War is like the First World War.
Yeah.
Richard is then no longer Lord Protector in 1455 because Henry VI just gets his shit together. He's like, you know what? I'm back, boys. I can do this.
I like to think that Richard helped him doing that.
I think so, too.
I think getting the toxic girlfriend out of your life can help you so much.
Well, she's still around.
She's still around. It's just more of that.
She got rid of the boyfriend.
Yeah.
Or he got rid of her boyfriend. Maybe he likes being cucked because
Okay.
Henry VI releases Somerset from the Tower of London.
Oh, I'm sure. So he Henry VI pretty much like, no, I'm good. I'm going to take power again, and then releases the side dick. You got to think that now he's like, no, listen to me, and then she's like, all right, I'm back in power now. I'm going to walk over.
You gotta think he was never good.
Oh, now that you're back, babe, can you release Somerset? Like, since you're back in control now.
This is junkie toxic mentality right here. This is I need to get back with the toxic ex who treats me terribly. I'll do anything she says. Let's go to Cheesecake Factory.
So he releases this guy. What happens then?
And he exiles his boy and Lord Protector, Richard of York.
Fuck Henry VI.
I know.
No, nah.
So you gonna really ride for the fucking Lannisters? The Lancasters?
So Lancaster is she like that's Cersei and everything?
Henry, Lancaster. They're all Lancasters. The Yorks.
Okay.
Your
I
boys.
just want to make sure that
Your
was
boy
clear.
is the Lord Protector. He is.
Look,
So
Henry.
I'm Richard York, Lord Protector, just got exiled, and you're Henry VI, who's getting cucked.
You have to understand.
You're
what
kind of
Henry-
like Ned Stark.
Henry's been through a lot, man.
Pick the good side.
He's basically the child actor of the time. So he was king and he was one. Didn't know what to do. His uncles took advantage of the throne, drove the crown into peril. Like his dad had it built up. His uncles drove it into heck. France came back. He had to sign some treaties he didn't want to treat. The baddie wife he thought he had was getting some D on the side, who's now all of a sudden his advisor. Can stress a man out.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's crazy how long Henry VI lasts
Okay.
because of all these things that are happening. I guess they just feel bad for him enough that,
Gets hooked on the Zans, gets clean, comes back.
or they're like, he's not really an issue. Like we can rule the kingdom without him.
He's the Biden.
Very much so.
yeah.
Very-
So Richard of York, he gets exiled. Of course he's going to raise an army in May of 1455. And he hopes to intercept and attack the royal party at St. Albans before they reach a newly established council. Richard brought along an army of 4,000 to challenge Henry and his 2,000 troops south of London on May 22nd, 1455.
So my ex-hand is trying to jump me now. You're literally, this is if like Mike Pence came back and was trying to get.
This is what it is that like you're constantly telling your boy that like no your ex is no your girlfriend's cheating on you. This is why you're in such a bad place. You need to break up with her, and he finally does it. And then he gets back together with her and says, "No, you can't be my friend anymore." And he's like, "All right, the only recourse I have now is to beat the some sense into you." So this is what he's doing. He's just like, "All right, gonna beat him up." That's what this is.
That's strikingly good logic.
On one side, was Henry and Margaret's family, the House of Lancaster. On the other side was Richard's family, the House of York. This was essentially the first real battle of the War of Roses. So everything else was kind of preamble and like everything that led up to it. This is what kind of kicks off the War of Roses.
So that was all lore.
Mhm.
We're into it now.
Now
we're
we're
off.
into it.
We're off, folks.
Richard had a decisive victory at Albans and took Henry VI prisoner after finding the king hiding in a tanner shop, while Somerset and many of his other key rivals of Richard were killed in action.
Oh,
So he
hell yeah.
got kind of the best of both worlds. He got to kind of capture his homie, maybe try to talk some sense into him, imprison him, but maybe you can figure things out.
Yeah, he doesn't want to kill Henry. He wants to be like, you're
Well,
still
yeah,
the king. Like, I'm trying to help you out.
Because if you killed the rightful king, everyone knows they would turn on you, and you're just trying to manipulate me because you're stopping me from being with the baddie.
Oh my God,
You don't want me to be with the baddie.
You picked the wrong side, and you are regretting it, Giorgio. The Yorks are
and
clearly
now I
in the-
have to defend it somehow.
in the right now.
Oh, I like this. I like having to pick a side and just sticking to your guns.
Yeah, basically.
Because there's a lot of parallels to the modern world right now in politics.
Yeah, I don't. No matter
Maybe
what.
I have the wrong guy, but I don't care. I made my decision.
I don't matter what the facts are. I picked my side.
Look, I love her. You said you accepted that, and then now you've crossed me as my boy.
Oh, so now you're Henry VI, and I am Richard of York. All right, we got this. So yeah, so he gets his boy back, and he kills the side dick, and like a lot of their people. So I mean, okay, I like where this is going.
Richard of York was once again appointed a Lord Protector by Parliament.
He has a claim to the throne, right?
Mhm.
He's part. Yeah. So,
Well,
No,
by power.
but does he not have a lineage?
I'm sure he does.
Yeah,
Everyone at this
like I
point
said,
does.
everyone has one.
Basically, everyone's tracing it back to Edward III at this point.
He secures his succession to the throne through the Act of the Accord in 1460. This meant that Richard was now in line to become king ahead of Henry VI's son. So he is the Lord Protector, but now he's like, I found a path to become king.
Wait, so
Wait,
not his offspring? Like, as in, like, if Henry VI dies, I am now the king?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Oh, I like this.
Yes.
This just seems like a trap.
Well, after Richard took control of England, Henry VI went into hiding, but he was then captured by noble families who supported Richard. Margaret of Anjou raised her own army by forming an alliance with Scotland and France to get power back for her husband and secure the throne for her son, Edward. In December of 1460, the Lancaster army and Richard's Yorkist forces fought against each other outside Sandal Castle near Wakefield. Richard of York and his eldest son, Edmund, were killed. Henry VI was restored to power. So, bad day for your boys.
Fuck that.
Let's go.
Wait, hold on. So at this point, Henry VI was still the king. He just went into hiding and, like, he ran away, and Richard
his
of
wife-
York said, like, no, come back here. You're still the king. And then his wife was like, but he's not really the king, so we're going to fight you.
Yeah, she's
That's
a
how it
baddie.
went? All right. So
The wife raised the army. She took power back.
Yeah, she
yeah.
is.
She's like, I'm tired of not being queen.
yeah, so but she still technically was, but just not power-wise.
Yeah.
Because he was the king still. He was still having Henry VI being the king, but he ran away pretty much.
Yep.
I was in exile because you were raising such an
You weren't in
army.
exile. You ran away like a little bitch.
You would raise a large
I
army.
had to go tell one of the noble families to go pick you
I
up.
had to go help. I had to go.
They called me up. They said, yeah, he's actually at our house. He said he doesn't want to be home
I had
right
to call
now.
Scotland to help me, bro.
No, your wife did.
Oh,
Your-
yeah,
your
our
cheating
family.
bitch wife did.
Well, she rules.
Richard's
bad.
other sons, Edward, George, and Richard, continued to fight the War of the Roses and try to win the throne for the Yorkist. Following the Battle of Wakefield, Yorkists blocked Lancasters from entering London. The Earl of Warwick, a powerful noble, crowned Edward.
That's where the lineage goes. It was supposed to be, if Henry VI dies, it's supposed to go to Richard, and then Richard of York, and then through the rest of his family.
Yeah, so
But and then like,
If.
but then there was Edward,
Henry-
VI's actual son, and then
Henry
went through
VI still very much alive.
okay,
His son also alive, along with his wife Margaret.
okay. So the people,
But
of the
Richard
Yorkists.
of York dead.
Uh-huh.
Also, his sons, or one of his sons, Edmund, is dead. His oldest surviving son, is then crowned king by the Earl of Warwick, who was a powerful noble.
Oh, while Henry VI is still alive.
Yep.
This is not even.
So now is the battle of two kings.
They're saying like, screw it. No, the Yorkists, us Yorkists are saying no. We don't even see Henry VI as king.
We don't recognize Henry VI.
Richard's son is king.
So Warwick's decision to crown Edward as king left England with two kings, Edward IV, who is, a lot of people compare him to a mix between Robert Baratheon and Robb Stark.
Okay.
Large man.
So very good at war, bit of a whore. He liked to drink, liked to fuck, got around.
This is Edward IV?
Edward IV.
Eddie boy.
Very good at battle, very good at conquering. But yeah, he had his vices. Liked to drink. Liked to hit the
Yorks do
brothels.
seem cooler at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Feel like I picked the
I
wrong
let you
team.
choose.
Yeah, you have the house of schizophrenics.
Yeah. And young people
Bad time.
and cucks.
Just a bad time. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Yorks are just fucking conquering.
You know, the fact that we have New York, I thought, probably Yorks were the better choosing, that, old York, New York, but I wasn't sure. I'm glad I got the Yorks. At least I hope I still continue. I'm glad I got the Yorks. We'll see.
Edward IV and the Earl of Warwick marched north and fought the Lancaster army at Towton, near York, in March of 1461. Towton was a victory for Edward IV and the Yorkist army,
Fuck yeah.
and it was one of the most violent battles ever fought in England, with an estimate of over 28,000 deaths, which is insane back then.
That's a lot.
It doesn't really touch or broach Chinese numbers, but we kind of
Or Punic
gloss
numbers.
over those. Dude, Punic numbers aren't that bad either. The real death in the Punic War comes from just people drowning.
Yeah. The ocean wins.
The ocean
Punic-
took so many casualties.
I'm not unaware, but Plague had a lot too, though.
Plague took a lot,
Yeah, didn't the plague take like 1/3 of Europe?
but I'm talking. This is one battle. This is 28,000 dead.
It's a plague month.
People kind of overestimate because of movies and TV shows and stuff. Battles were kind of like little skirmishes.
Yeah.
These weren't like 28,000 people dying in one swoop.
Even
is crazy.
the interception battle was 4,000 versus 2,000. So even
Yeah.
if everyone died in that one was 6,000 people, like
Yeah, how did you
28,000?
challenge a kingdom with 4,000 people?
Huh? It was a riding party.
Yeah, you got to slowly rise your army.
They were intercepting the royal party. It wasn't like a full on all my army versus all
No,
your army.
it was a surprise attack.
Yeah.
And
Little
they
ambush.
only had 2,000, so they outnumbered them. They doubled them.
You're such a traitor. How could anyone be
what
on
type
your
of
side?
traitor captures the king back to put him back on the throne? Like that's
Bro,
not
the
a traitor.
king was out on a bender because of his royal blood.
No, I think if there's anyone on a bender, it sounds like it's this Edward IV, who just won. May have lost some troops, maybe like half of 28,000, but still, doesn't matter. Win's a win. Win's a win, baby.
Many of the higher-up Lancasters were killed. Henry VI again flees. He flees to Scotland
This guy can't stop running away.
with Margaret and their son Edward.
Look, me and the wife, we go on vacation. We're in album mode. Kendrick hit us with a hard diss.
She's looking for a new side piece.
But you want to talk about betrayal?
We're here to find her
Our
boyfriend.
boy Earl of Warwick, who initially names King Edward IV king, he abandons his support in 1470
I've abandoned my boy.
after he resisted his attempts to form an alliance with France. Warwick was angry that Edward married someone who was not noble.
Oh, so this is a very
This
Robb
is the Robb
Stark.
Stark thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So Warwick switches sides because he's like, dude, marriage is political. You have to get something out of it. You need to go, negotiate with France, marry one of their daughters.
Yeah.
You need to kind of bring everything together. You can't be marrying a lowborn.
Yeah, you got to marry some other royal member or some like noble, and then you can keep your side piece and just appoint him to like hand or something like that. Like
She can
like
be a
Margaret
maiden.
did,
Yeah.
Just be some servant. Sir Cole would not be happy with this though, so maybe she wouldn't have been happy either.
I mean, this is very Sir Cole.
I get what you mean. Yeah, this is very much rub off the serial numbers, and we got.
Dude, I'm telling you, George R.R. Martin does not create anything. This is all just ripped from him. He's a big historian. We'd love to have him on the show.
We'd love. So George, if you're out
We'd
there,
love him to finish the fucking book first, but
True.
so Warwick had support of the French king of the time, Louis XI, who provided ships, men, and money, and he hops over to Henry's wife, Margaret.
I'm back.
We'll put this crazy person back on the throne.
Who had just fled. Wait, hold on. So, and she's
Vacation.
cool with this? After this was the guy that crowned Edward IV, the king, the biggest opposition to them. She's like, all right, yeah, sure.
Because everyone knows I'm the rightful king, buddy.
Because Warwick's like, hey, man, I believed in something. I believed in this man. But he married a fucking poor.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. And she's like, all right, I completely agree that your allegiance has switched now because that is just, who would do that? So, hold on. I guess I'll put on a little tangent here. What's the difference between a duke and an earl? Like, why could the earl crown him king and it be like, people are like, yeah, that's right.
What's a king to a god? What's a god to a non-believer?
Okay, I think that answered my question.
Don't believe in. It's just titles.
All right.
Like, I don't know.
So I guess any noble
Elevated
could,
status,
yeah,
more money, more land, more people to rule.
interesting.
They're all related, though.
It's ranking above a viscount and below a marquise.
That helps so much, Georgia.
Where in the
Thank
realm
you.
would you like to kind of... You would probably want to be a viscount, right? Like, that's where you want to... You don't want to go higher than that because then you're kind of... You have a target on your back.
I want to be a baron. That just sounds fun.
That's more French.
Oh,
Yeah.
so a marquise is above an earl but below a duke. So earl would be below duke.
Okay. Warwick lands in England on the south coast and overwhelms Edward's support. Edward fled England and traveled to Flanders, which is now part of Belgium in Europe. Henry VI was then, briefly again, put back on the marble throne. This guy can't stop winning by no actions of his own.
He just keeps running away, and people go find him and say, no,
I don't
sit
want
down.
it. I don't want it.
Very Kanye.
Just here, man. Here's your crown. You drop this.
Nah.
Well, it's because everyone wants to keep on putting him on, because no one wants to actually be the king. They just want all the power being king.
Yeah, they want
So
to manipulate
They
him.
want the realm to blame him for the bad stuff that's happening if you fuck up.
Yeah.
So like, oh no,
They want to rule in the shadows.
Yeah, they rule
I'm the
show.
most puppetable king, yes.
Yep. So hold on. So they lost because of this overwhelming. But is Eddie 4? Is he still alive?
He's still alive.
Okay. Whew.
He flees to Belgium.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, that's what you said.
On the 4th of May, 1471, there was a decisive battle for the Yorkist at the Battle of Tewkesbury. Edward IV returned to England from Flanders after he gathered an army with support from some English nobles and his brother-in-law, Charles of Burgundy. The Lancaster army was on their way to Wales to join another force when they were cut off by Edward's army. Rather than escape, they decided to fight. The Lancaster forces were pushed back and defeated.
Fuck you.
King Henry VI's only son and heir, Edward, was killed on the battlefield.
R.I.P. dog.
So Henry VI no longer has a succession plan. He no longer has a child.
We gotta figure that out.
That's a future Lancaster problem.
Yeah.
I don't think Henry's figuring this one out. He's probably just gonna fucking run away again or something.
Margaret was captured and paraded through London, where she remained until the French king Louis XI ransomed her in 1475. So she ultimately goes back to France. Happy ending for Margaret. She didn't really face any consequences for her actions.
Kind of a savage, though.
She was. She's a baddie.
She was a big player in all this.
Following his victory at Tewkesbury, Edward marched to London, arriving on the 21st of May, and Henry VI would not escape this. He was executed on Edward's orders.
No more running away, little boy. Woo, Yorks.
We had a good run.
No, you didn't.
Thought we had enough delegates to win it.
You had a long run, but it was not a good run.
Edward IV had a pretty good and peaceful reign. And of course, he was hitting up brothels. He's just life of the party. You know, not too consequential of a king. He didn't really do much under his realm, but it was peaceful.
He was a conqueror, not a ruler.
Yeah.
You know, he was just like, all right, well, I got it. Very Robert Baratheon.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was in peace.
He ruled until his death in 1483. His son became King Edward V. He was only 12 years old when he became king. So again, man, it's always these young kings that start issues.
This is the oldest of the young kings that we've gotten so far. It's been 10, 1, and now 12. So at least he's got 2 more years.
He's got something. I don't think his father was around much. I don't think he taught him anything.
He was too busy banging whores.
It's hard work.
His son, Edward V, takes the crown at 12, and his uncle, Richard, was Lord Protector for Edward until he becomes of age.
16, right? That's pretty much the... So when you say he takes the crown, just that usually means that, like, Edward IV died. Or do they ever pass the crown on beforehand?
Yeah, so Edward IV's dead.
Gotcha.
So Edward V takes the seat, but, you know, he's too young to rule. He needs to learn under his uncle, of course.
But there is a ceremony in which he is crowned.
Yeah. Richard then claimed that he was heir to the throne and crowned himself king instead.
The fuck?
Why? Because he said Edward V was illegitimate.
Oh, wait, hold on. Okay. And so this is no side piece there. Why did he say this? All right.
Because Edward IV married a poor, dirty peasant.
Which then
he's
tainted the line.
He's illegitimate, not because it isn't the wife's. It's not because it's not Edward IV's son. It's because he's half low.
He's half poor.
He's half poor. I get it. Okay, interesting.
Once
and who
the
is
trailer,
Richard
always the trailer.
in this? Like he's
So
Lord
Richard-
Protector, but is he also
He's the brother
of Edward IV?
Edward IV.
Okay, so he's his uncle. Gotcha.
Yeah, dude, uncles always be taking power.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Left
I mean,
and right.
if Edward V didn't happen, I guess rightfully it would go to Richard. So I guess
Well,
that
it's like you might respect your brother to be king over you, but then his dweeby son, his
Yeah.
shit son, you're like, no. I'm
his
basically
shit
my brother.
half poor son,
Like, I would beat him in 2K sometimes, so, like, I should be king.
this little dweeb. Mother was a peasant.
That and they weren't like legally married.
Oh, okay. That also is.
I think they were married, but they just the fucking royals were not about it, so they just dismissed it.
No.
The church was like, she's too poor to actually
Right.
marry.
What is your house? What house do you come from?
Oh, you don't have royal blood? You got some of that dirty lowborn blood? Gross.
So this is Richard III, who becomes king, and the 2 young princes, including Edward V, disappear and are never seen from again.
They were murked.
Yeah,
All
they,
right.
they got murdered.
All right, hold on. So we're kind of I'm still with the Yorks, I guess, but we won. But now we're all in York territory, huh? All right. Well, I'm not feeling as good about this, but anyways.
Yeah, now it's York on York crime.
Killing a 12-year-old and his brother.
Whoa!
His
You never
younger
know what
brother.
happened. They could have just got exiled and banished, and they could have had a happy life
A peaceful life
somewhere
where they didn't want power. They're like, you know what? We'll work on this ship.
Yeah, they could have had a great life. You don't know. They just disappeared.
From the fucking woodwork, Henry Tudor.
My God, that's Henry Tudor's music.
My God, it's Henry Tudor's music. His roots with Catherine and the early Lancasters, raised in exile over, in Welsh royalty, didn't have any issues, didn't have any problems. He had a claim to the throne.
Guess who's back?
Through
The Lancasters.
okay,
Through Catherine.
because she remarried, right? Catherine remarried the
Tudors.
And Catherine was whose original wife? Edward III, not Edward III. Henry V's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So you're Henry VI. Your mom's. So this is like his half cousin.
Yeah.
No, my mom's.
So Catherine is
son.
Henry V's wife.
which is Henry VI's mom, and she goes up and remarries and has children.
It's my half brother.
So it's your half brother, yeah.
Yeah, and Henry Tudor,
My Welsh.
he's got shooters in Wales, in England, in France. He is the king of kings.
So Henry Tudor is Catherine's son, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, your half brother is all right from the rafters. Here we go.
Well, no, he's like the grandson of Catherine, or like the great grandson of Like
Okay, so your half nephew.
Yes.
it gets. Even I'm confused.
Your half brother's.
I need to
kid.
do like a chart.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
like
a
a
little
little
family
family
tree. So it's okay, but either way, makes sense. It's more of a half sibling thing.
And he makes his run for the crown on August 22nd, 1485. Richard III and Henry Tudor faced off in the Battle of Bosworth Field. Henry Tudor had the support of many rich and powerful people, and initially the powerful Lord Thomas Stanley and his brother William were undecided who they were going to support. So they were going to fight kind of right by their kingdom, their castle, their little...
Hey, what are they doing over there?
They're fighting on their land, and then like, all right, whose side are you going to be on? And they're like, we're going to wait.
Yeah. leave us out of this for now. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how the winds shift.
And the Stanleys commanded a force of around 5,000 troops at Bosworth. So their decision over which side they supported was crucial. It was an extra, kind of little boost.
We'll support the winning side.
But sir, basically whichever side you support is the winning side.
No, we'll support the winning side.
We're gonna support both sides so that we come out on top.
Yeah, I'm playing both teams.
No, but they split the army.
Which
Each side gets half the army.
No, dude, you just come in late. You're like that. You come in the fourth quarter.
Of course.
Like, oh, that side's already winning. Yeah,
Yeah.
we supported you the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweep up.
Remember when we were there and like we totally helped you win that?
Bro, you look so fresh. Why does your armor have like no scuffs on it?
What are you talking about?
Ultimately, Henry Tudor's win the battle.
Ah,
Stanley's hop on. They're a little bandwagon.
Let's
yeah,
go.
yeah. So,
Nobody circles the wagons like the Stanleys.
That's pretty much exactly what they think. They said, all right, well, we're supporting the winning side. So with the Lancasters are pretty much kind of back in control, but not like the Lancasters.
Well, Richard's killed. His forces fled. Richard was the last English king to die on the battlefield, actually. I think they just found his bones or something under a parking lot.
Yes,
I
in
could be
Lancaster,
wrong.
England. Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah.
Huh.
So he was
See-
the last English king to die on the battlefield, and he was buried under a parking lot.
Well, that.
Well, the
That's-
parking lot came later.
Came later.
Well, just saying, us Yorks, we lead from the front, man.
When his body was found many years later, it showed that he had 11 wounds that were certainly from battle. He received fatal blows to the skull and back, along with injuries all over his body. So he went out like a gangster,
That's the York way, man.
After Richard's death, Henry Tudor was crowned King Henry VII and married into the York family, bringing the two houses of Roses together.
Oh.
Thus ends the War of the Roses because of the Tudors, and this is kind of when the Tudors take over. And
It's a
if
happy
you want
little,
to know about them, there's a very popular TV show.
happy little ending there, I guess. So. We both won.
So you guys
Yeah, basically the inbreds came together and to form one super inbred.
more or less, yeah, cousins, brothers,
Lovers,
sisters, lovers.
Sons.
side dick. Had it all, man.
Dude, it really did. Backstabbing.
Yeah, that Earl guy, just because he married a dirty poor.
I think my favorite character in all of it was probably Richard of York. He seemed to be the most honorable.
Yeah, he definitely was, and maybe he was constantly putting Henry V,
Henry
six back on the throne because he wanted power, but it also just seemed like he was trying to
Well, no, he ultimately turned against him because of his wife, and he gets exiled.
exactly.
But he was always looking out for
But he
his
was always
boy.
bringing him back and being like, "No,
No.
you're the king."
No, if you find a way to make peace with your bro's girl.
He was trying to gas up this king all the time, and his girl was just in his ear saying like, "I don't like you hanging out with him."
Pretty much. And then brought her new guy in. He's like, here's your new best friend, but then he's going to be dicking me down on the side.
Yeah.
You should take advice from him.
What'd you guys learn today?
I learned that history's nuts, that this was very Game of Thronesy, and that Henry VI was the biggest pussy of all time and just kept on running away from his problems.
He had mental issues, okay?
Fine. But he
Before
just
it
kept
was
running
cool.
away.
Before it was cool.
Don't put pussy on a pedestal.
Hmm.
Don't raise up your kids thinking they're special from a young age.
Yeah, don't call your son a king at 1.
Yeah,
You
no.
know, let him become a king. He
Or-
needs to earn a king.
If you're a king, don't die while your son's, a boy.
Yeah, don't die from the Hershey squirts.
Yeah, definitely cook your meat.
Better
watch out
diets.
for like wash your vegetables.
This all could have been better diets, and that brings us to today's sponsor, Better Diet.
I know the biggest warriors in the story, too, all died dysentery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The greatest kings all died of dysentery.
Except, no, not the greatest king, Richard III, right? Died on the battlefield
Yeah, Richard III. They found his bones. You said where?
underneath the parking lot.
A parking lot of like a soccer team or something? Is
No,
what
that
it
was that wasn't Richard. That was Richard III's.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah, under Lancaster.
The lads just grabbing some pints, running into medieval bones.
So, I guess technically, the Tudors had the claim to the throne through Catherine. So it's through like the woman's side and not the
Henry V and Catherine.
They were
But-
already kind of a noble family, though, ahead of time. It was more of like when they joined up with Catherine, it kind of like
But Catherine
supercharged it.
remarried into the Tudors, right? So then, like, that claim came from Catherine and not from Henry V.
It's both. It's just like essentially Henry VII, Henry Tudor. He just has all the Infinity Stones.
Gotcha.
He's got
But he
all the
technically
families.
wasn't
so like
Henry V's son.
Catherine was
No.
once married to a king, so that makes her like
Yeah.
queen
So
status.
that's what I'm saying. That
And
claim,
whoever, if she were to marry someone else next, that would raise them up a little. And they already came with a little bit of something.
so that's where that Henry VII went back to saying, "Hey, here's my claim of throne because my grandma, that we think, was the queen at one point."
Yeah, Henry VI, his mother was Catherine.
Yes.
She marries the Tudors. So yeah, they have roots all over.
So yeah, so the line goes through, I guess.
And then
interesting.
her two sons were Edmund and Jasper, so I think Henry is her grandson.
Okay, yeah. So
it works less in like the like theological math, but it works better when you're like, oh, these two big squads just want to like squad up.
okay, and then Henry V, Catherine's husband, is a Lancaster, right? Or is Catherine Lancaster? They're both Lancasters. That's how it all went. So it was Lancaster all the way up until the Yorks were like, no.
Yeah,
Makes-
more or less.
Makes sense. Okay.
Mhm.
So good for the Tudors. I guess they won with Stanley. Stanley just doing nothing. That's the real winner of this all. He has had a big battle on his front doorstep and said,
We'll see what happens.
you know,
which way the winds shift.
Hey, either way, I'm coming up on top on this. This is what it was. Like, hey, you're fighting on my lawn. I get to choose what side I pick.
These
But I
are
will
like,
wait.
some real big brain things for such an early time.
They're fighting out there. Should we join them?
I mean, this is kind of what ends the Middle Ages and brings about,
Yeah.
the Renaissance. Technically, I guess. So, yeah, that's the big brain shit that happens.
So the War of the Roses, to sum this up, the War of the Roses was fought between the Lancasters and the Yorks, and it was ended because the Tudors ended it.
More or less, yeah.
So pretty much this whole war was ended by the Tudors.
And he
it
brought
didn't-
the houses of the flowers together, the white and the red.
Oh, how beautiful.
Poetic, some would say. Who's today's, we like to say, Hitler of the show? So somebody that was the worst character in the story.
I would say Richard the one guy that got sent to a dungeon and starved.
Okay.
Yeah, the one that Henry V's cousin, because Henry V's the one that got all of his like titles taken and then came back and was like, "No, I'm the king now." And Richard, you're in the dungeon. You're gonna starve to death. I would say that Richard guy, because he was the one that was exiling everyone.
So Richard II.
Richard II. Yeah, I think he was a Hitler.
He did have technically a period referred to as Richard's tyranny.
Yes, I think that's my vote. And that's me being side York. I'm not even going to say a Lancaster over there. That's how noble, that's how humble and honorable I am. That even though we had a big war,
you went out there
that I
on
was
the
saying.
really thin branch of Richard the tyrannical.
So, I think I just answered the question correctly, Dan.
For the video too, I'm gonna add in a bunch of images and maybe some kind of like family trees to make this
A little bit easier to understand, yeah.
because even as I'm reading this,
The
and I
real
wrote
Hitler
this,
of the episode is Joan of Arc.
it's hard to follow. Yeah, Joan of Arc, she
Because
caused some problems.
things were so prosperous when England was controlling most of France after both Henry III and Henry V. So I think, yeah.
You're saying Joan of Arc.
Just blaming a woman, classic Giorgio. And I think that's a great way to end this. Make sure to subscribe to Patreon, patreon.com/softcore history. You get 2 additional episodes every week. With Rob will be back on the Patreon. You
Or will
boys,
he?
thank you for joining me.
Thank
you
you,
for,
Your
in
Grace.
my time of need, for the time of the realm, raising your banners for your king,
Which is King Henry VII.
Henry Tudor. Bringing the house together. Well, Randy, where can the people find you?
People can find me at Randy Trembacki on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, on everything. That's RANDYTREMBACKI.
Also, Wash Media, the
And
Circling Back podcast.
Wash Media, Circling Back Podcast, all that, all the podcasts are doing there at Washed Media. I am the Dan of Washed Media. I do all the video and the producing.
Giorgio, what about you?
Go follow My Drunk Uncle's podcast. We have
Uncle Laser.
Uncle Laser. We have a new set in my house that we've kind of done up. It's a little different now. Follow Mikey Likes You podcast as well. Follow.
You want to plug your own shit or no?
No, we may have a new. There may be
People
a
who
new,
pay you.
There may be a new
I did the
YouTube
opposite.
channel. If you like retro tech, there may be a new YouTube channel coming in the future.
All right. Well, for Randy and Giorgio, I'm Dan Regester, and you just got soft serve.